Where can a reader see a list of the works that a writer used in their essay? The Works Cited page, of course. Oh, there's one thing I have to click here, view, float on top. Okay. The Works Cited page, of course. And here's a sample one. First thing you'll notice is that it's alphabetized, yeah? B-A, B-I, D-E, G-E, J-O-M-E. Next thing you'll notice is that it has what's called a hanging indent. And I actually want to show you how to make a hanging indent really quick. Let's pretend this is our Works Cited. You're like, oh, okay. So all hanging indent means is that every line after the first needs to be tabbed in, okay? Just like you saw here. See? Line 2, line 3 tabbed in, line 2 tabbed in. That's called a hanging indent. So in order to do that, it's really easy. Let me actually show you the easy way. Just go here at the end, put your cursor at the end of the first line, hit tab. Put your cursor here, hit tab. That's the easiest way. Another way, I'll show you the manual way too. So I like to be thorough. So, all right, you just right click, go to paragraph. You go to where it says special, you go hanging, and then boom. But honestly, the easiest way to make a hanging indent is, it's just what I taught you here. Well, that's funny because it automatically puts it in hanging. Let's bring it back to how it was. Let's pretend it wasn't hanging. Paragraph. None. Okay. Yeah, so check it out. Just at the end of each line, just put your cursor there. See how it's blinking? Okay, just hit tab. That's it. That's the easiest way. So those are the two things that come to mind. Number one is that it's alphabetized. Number two is that it has a hanging indent. You're like, okay, sweet. How do I do it then? Well, let's go ahead and find out together. Okay, so here where it says Module 2, if we return to our good old MLA resources link, here it says how to create a Works Cited page. Click this link. Now the kind people at Purdue University, which is in Indiana, have created us this helpful, trusty resource called OWL at Purdue. So, let's see. Before we do this, I do want to mention something. There we go. Okay. No, let's do it this way. There we go. So this is a component. Actually, let me make it more accurate. I'll call it the final chapter. Yeah, it's called the final chapter. Okay. It's underlined for now. Oops, we don't want that underlined. We only want the actual title underlined. This is a container. All right. Ooh. It's kind of hot, isn't it, guys? It's a hot summer. size. Oh, man. This thing is on the fritz. All right, let's make some sense of this. You are going to love this. Have you ever been in class and you are just wondering, okay, do I underline this title? Do I use quotation marks? When the heck do I do what? Well, you're going to find out now. Well, let's find out together. Okay, so quotation marks indicate a component of something. That word component simply means a smaller part of something larger. Yeah. So if I have a glass mug, yeah, that's something larger. Yeah. If I break it into pieces, then those shards of glass are components of the mug. Yeah. So similarly, in texts, when we're talking about texts, we have containers and we have components. What does a container do? It contains something, right? Much like our mug, or that mug that we had. So that I'm actually holding a mug, imaginary mug here. So that mug contains liquid, yeah? So similarly, when we're citing, a container contains something. You're like, okay, I think I got it now a little bit. But please keep going. All right. So if this says the final chapter and it's in quotation marks, it's a component because it's a chapter of a book. Okay, in this instance, let's say it's a chapter of a book. A book is made up of different chapters, right? But the book itself is the container, because that's what actually contains all those chapters. Yeah, I wrote The Lion King here. So a movie is a container because it contains scenes, right? If I was going to write a scene name, then I would use quotation marks. So that's a component. All right, does it make a little bit of sense? And here's a really cool trick for knowing how to remember this. So in my mind, this is how I remember it. Quotation marks to me look like fragments of a line. They look like just like little shards, fragments essentially, right? They're not a complete line. They're fragments. They're little pieces, little nubs of a line. So that's how I remember. Okay, they're fragments. They're little nubs of a line. Therefore, they're the components. Okay. Container. This is not a fragment of a line. This is a whole line. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. So as such, it's the holistic thing, the container. It's the whole mug. So I think of it that way. I think about it in terms of the line itself. Number one, is it a fragment of the line? That's how I see it. Thus being a component. Or is it the full line itself? When we're underlining, it's the whole line. Okay? So component, container. Let me give you some other examples. Album, a music album. Okay. I used to have this music album by Will Smith called Big Willie Style. So that album title is a container. An album is a container because it contains songs. Yeah, it contains tracks. Songs or tracks. Book is a container because it contains chapters. Okay. One other thing that I want to mention: chapters. You're like, hey, why is it that a chapter? Let's see. This is called best chapter ever. We'll call it. I don't know. Let's make it like a chapter in like a medical journal or something. We'll call it. How about prosthetics? dawn appears on the horizon or something. Okay, so let's pretend you, yes, you student, you viewing this video, let's say that you wrote this article and you submitted it to a medical journal, and it's called Prosthetics. A New Dawn Appears on the Horizon. So prosthetics and making them apt for biomechanics of our body. And let's pretend that's the case. So articles are found in publications, whether that's a journal, whether that's a magazine, whether that's a newspaper, okay? Articles are always contained in something larger. So that's just how I can remember it. It's because of that they're considered components, yeah? And they're placed in quotation marks. Now that we've talked about this is gonna, this works cited is gonna make what happened here? Oh, there we go. All right, let's begin with this. This is like your like Bible, your guide here. So, when citing a source, you're not. This is happening. You're not going to be given all this information all the time, but you just go with what you are given. Okay. Things like this. Check out author, title of source, title of container, other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, location. This will all make sense in a moment. Before we proceed, I want you to notice this. There are periods, either a period or a comma. Check this out. There are periods only after the author and the title of source, and then obviously at the end. The rest are commas, yeah? So this is deliberate. This indicates the precise punctuation mark that you will use in your works cited page after listing this particular detail. So let's proceed. So again, remember, periods are only found after the author, after the title of the source, and at the end, way at the end of your works cited page, much like the end of the sentence. So check this out. Here we have the author, Cited. Oh, here's another thing. We begin with the last name of the author. You do not write Edward W. Cited. No. You write Cited, Edward W. Okay, this is his middle name. Cited Edward W. Period. Why period? Well, because that's the author, right? There's a period after the author and after the title of the source. So this, culture and imperialism, the fact that it's in italics, sorry, I didn't really underscore that here, but when you underline to indicate a container, that's an interchangeable, that's interchangeable with italics. So you can either underline or you can either italicize. It's the same thing, and you're indicating the same thing. You're indicating that it's a container at the end of the day. Now that we know that, notice that this title, this title of source, this source title, culture and imperialism, is italicized. Therefore, it's possibly that it's a book, right? Because that's a container, yeah. And notice here, Knopf, that's the publisher, and then publication date 1994. So this is an instance where we don't know other contributors or if there were any. We don't know. This doesn't apply. Version, number. So only the info that you have about a source is what you will include. But having said that, with that info that you have, you are still following this order, okay? See? Author, source title, publisher. Notice how it jumps from notice how it jumps from here to here. And in this instance, this is both the source title and the container, because it's one they're one and the same, yeah? Okay, let's move on. Now here's another one. Henley, Patricia. So there's the author, period. The Hummingbird House, another container, potentially a book, right? This is the publisher, McMurray, 1999. I want to include a little addendum. I want to add something here because you're going to see this on your worksheet assignment for this. So I'm going to make this little addendum here. Okay, let's pretend we're looking at this. Awesome. Now, what if, along with the name of the publisher, you're also given the city of where it's published? Let's say it's Boston, okay? So simply, you include the city before the publisher, and then you put a colon, okay? So Boston, McMurray. That's just my little addendum there. So if you know the city, just include it before the actual publisher. But that's just if you know it. Yeah, so that would go here. So, okay, let's continue. Ooh, check this out. Lindman Susan, that's the author. How to make vegetarian chili. That's an article. Remember I told you an article is a component. Why? Because it's held in a larger container. In this instance, it's held in this website, eHow. And it's in italics because this website is the container. A website is a container because it contains articles, right? And this is the location. Like, oh, well, what's a location? Notice that it's the very last detail. So they're following that order. See, here we have the author, we have the source title, we have the container, which is eHow, it's the name of the website. Here's the location. So a location can be a web link. It can be page numbers. Maybe you just use page 50 to 72, right? Which we have that instance here. That's the location that they use. It's just a certain amount of pages. Okay, here's another one, and I'm going to try to pronounce this. I'll do my best. Bagchi Alaknanda. So notice the last name goes first, followed by the first name. This is the name. This is the source title, and it happens to have a title and subtitle. Yeah. So conflicting nationalisms. The voice of the subaltern in Mahasweta Devis Bashai to do. This is tough, but that's the source title, and we know that because there are quotation marks around it. This is the container, the name of the container, and it's a publication. Tulsa Studies in Women's Literature. So this is the name of that journal, or that particular journal. Again, articles are housed by journals or some other form of publication. You see here it's how it says volume 15, number 1. That's what it means by number. When it says version, that's like 3rd edition or 2nd edition, or if you're talking about the Bible, maybe a New International Version, so on and so forth. But when it says number, that's just like this instance. Way before the days of the internet, we had encyclopedias, and those encyclopedias, there were volume numbers and issue numbers. Okay, so that's the case here. As a publication, as a journal. Yeah, there's volume 15, issue number 1. Okay, that's all we're indicating. This is the date of publication. Now, mind you, there's commas. There's commas everywhere after the author and after the source title. See, comma, 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 comma. Okay, and then this is the location, page 41 to 50. They only use these pages. Remember I told you there's a period only after the author and after the source title, and then way at the end, wherever the heck it is that you end, there's a period there. Oh, check this out, music. So the author in this instance is Beyonce, and this is her song, Pray You Catch Me. Lemonade is the name of the container. Okay, so we're thinking in this context, music, therefore the container must be the album name. This is the record label. Now, a publisher, simply put, is an avenue that makes something public, right? To publish is to make public. So a record label makes music public, yeah, distributes it. So this is that. So author, source title, which is in this instance is a song name. Container, it's the album. Record label, Parkwood Entertainment, and this is the date that this particular track was released, was published, and this is the location. In this instance, it has a web link because it's a visual album, which is a cool concept. I haven't checked this out, but it's a cool concept. Oh, check this one out. Here we have an anthology. We have Jamaica Kincaid, but it says Kincaid Jamaica. Okay, that's the name of the story. Girl. Again, see, period. Here's the container. The Vintage Book of Contemporary American Short Stories. It's an anthology in this instance. So short stories are housed oftentimes in anthologies, just like in this instance. Here where it says edited, that actually falls under other contributor. So an editor is contributing, just like a translator can contribute to a work. Similarly, translator, illustrator, right? If you write a children's story and then someone you know illustrates it, so that's where you would credit them. And this is all really important because of intellectual property issues, right? It's a real thing. You need to give credit where credit is due, simply put, and we do it in this fashion here in the humanities. So edited by Tobias Wolff. You'll notice that it doesn't say edited by Wolff Tobias. No, there's no need to do it that way. It's only for the author that you put the last name first. So Kincaid Jamaica, that's the author of the short story, Girl. The Vintage Book of Contemporary American Short Stories, that's the container. In this instance, an anthology, edited by Tobias Wolff. So that's other contributor. Vintage is the publishing house in this instance. This is the date of publication, 1994. This is the location. So this person only used these pages, 306 to 307. All right, check this out. So this is a TV episode, so 94 meetings. The container is the series title, Parks and Recreation. My sister told me about it. I haven't checked out the show. But this is a container because a series contains episodes, yeah? And here's the other contributors. Yeah. When you're an actress, you're contributing to an episode. This is the number, so season and episode. Season 2, episode 21. Again, we return to the idea of publisher, right? To make public. In the case of TV shows, there are networks and things like that. So in this case, Universal Media Studios. So don't get too frazzled about if it's a record label or if it's a movie studio or whatever the case. Just to publish is to make public. Just remember that, okay? This is the date that it was published. So hopefully this is making more sense. Check this out. In this case, they're crediting Netflix as a second container because this is the location, yeah. So it's found it's part of the repertoire of Netflix, which is a database. Anywhere that data is housed, whether streaming videos and or articles, that's a database. Here's another example. See a translator. Hopefully this is making more sense now in terms of logic. So Michel Foucault, this is the name of his book, Madness and Civilization. It just happens to have a subtitle, History of Insanity and the Age of Reason. What a title, huh? So here's other contributor, translated by Richard Howard. So it's not Howard Richard, it's Richard Howard. This is the publishing house, Vintage Random House. This is the date of publication, 1988. So again, see, period for the author, period for the source title, other contributors, publishing house, publication date. So again, you're noticing that they're not compulsorily giving us all this information. That's because you, as a student, when you're looking at sources, there will be times when you're not given all this, and there will be many times actually, and you'll only be given some of this. So just as long as you're following this order, then you're fine. And believe me, at the beginning, this is kind of confusing, and if you're scratching your head a little bit, that's okay. That means this is your first entry into Works Cited, and that's why we're here. We're here to learn. All right, other contributors. Hopefully, this is making sense. Remember, we talked about version. I said version and number. Oh, there's a small distinction. There's a citation of the Bible here. Okay, the Bible. Here's version. Authorized King James Version. This is the name of the publishing house, Oxford UP, and this is the date of that this particular Bible was published in '98. Here's another one of version. Editions count as versions. So check this out. This source has now. The first source. Sorry, pardon. It's just got a little bit dark. I'm just trying to fix this. There we go. So the first author does indeed also Crowley Sharon, and then they put comma, and Deborah Hockey. What a funny last name. Hockey. Okay, so two authors. And they're following the alphabetical order. Yeah? The CR goes before HA. That's why I put that first. And here's the container, which is the title of the source in this instance. Ancient Rhetorics for Contemporary Students, 3rd edition. So this has an edition, that's a version. Publishing house, Pearson. If you know the city, just like I mentioned here, see, if you know the city, you put it before the publisher. You put colon afterward. Boston, Mary. Okay. That's just an example. So here, if it was Cincinnati, then it would go Cincinnati, Pearson, 2004. I hope, my friends, that this is making more sense. To me, this is such a cool resource that Purdue University has put on for us. Yeah, see? Author, source title, container, publisher, publication date, location. Ooh, you're gonna like this. Okay. Notice this word here, accessed. Accessed works as a separator between the date of publication and the date of access. So when we're talking about electronic sources, it's very possible, yeah, that you're accessing it on a separate date from publication. Well, of course, you could access it 1 day later. You can access it 10 years later. You can access it 20 years later. So this is just when that electronic source was accessed. It acts as an indicator, as a separator between those two dates, date of publication and date of access. Look at some other examples of that. Here's an instance where we're not given a publishing house, but we're only given the city. So Boston, that takes the place of the publishing house because it's where it was published. We don't know by who, but we know where. So that would fall here under publication, because they're aligned topically, yeah, which is the source of publication. Oh, here we go. Check this out. Here's a prime example. Bernstein Mark, 10 tips on writing the living web. This is the name of the website. It's an electronic source, a list apart for people who make mistakes. And this was the date that it was published, that this guy made it public. Yeah? August 16, 2002. Here's the location. And accessed. That's the date that it was accessed. Alright, that's it. If you want to access this on your own time, you just go to MLA resources, and that's for this week's module right here, MLA resources. Click this, how to create a works cited page, it'll take you there. Oh, one last thing. Yeah, so it'll take you here. One last thing, and that's the worksheet for this. Could have just hit back, but I forgot. There we go. MLA practice worksheet. Let's go click that. So, for our homework, you're going to be given situations. Here we're told it's a book. This is an instance that has two authors. We're told what the book is, and this is crucial, guys. It's underlined because it's a book. It's a container. So sometimes students completely go against the indication that it needs to be underlined. Like, it's telling you it's underlined, but sometimes students put it in quotations, which I don't know why, because it's already told you that it's a book, and in fact, it's even underlined it for you. So to completely contradict what you're told in terms of clues to work with is nonsensical. So go with the info that you have. So it tells you the city of publication and the name of the publishing house and the date of publication. So you're given info, and you're the detective. You're the MLA detective. And you have to piece together and craft this works cited page based on the clues that you're given. Remember the importance of the importance of alphabet. Sorry, in this instance it wouldn't apply, but remember the importance of hanging indent, which means that every line after the second is tabbed in. So yeah, so you're given info, you just go along with that. Ooh, hopefully you paid attention to this, to the citation. Because I went over some of those answers without you knowing. So hopefully you're paying attention. So the guides that you have to help you with this worksheet, number one is this little guide here at the end of the worksheet. Number two is the Owl at Purdue guide that we've been looking at. So in terms of actually getting this done, you have the choice of downloading this and using an application to fill this out. I mean, you could just type out your answers, or you can print it and write it out in pen and then scan it. Either way, you're going to upload it into its respective link, which is for this module, and it's here where it says MLA practice worksheet, and that is due by Saturday by 11:59 p.m. See? So yeah, take a stab at it. So that is works cited.